And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.
On today's Smart 7, Europe and US meet on Ukraine, Supreme Court ruling sparks policy review, and much more. It's Friday, 18th of April, it's World Marbles Day, and happy birthday, David Tennant.
The Smart 7, it's news, but not the news.
Ukraine was back in the spotlight on Thursday as Donald Trump's team were in Paris to meet with French President Macron and a team of German and British officials for ceasefire talks. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Secretary of State Marco Rubio were joined by a Ukrainian delegation, including President Zelensky's Chief of Staff Andriy Yermak. Zelensky had criticised Witkoff earlier, saying he had taken the strategy of the Russian side, but Macron says the talks went well and it appears an outline rare earths deal has been signed. However, US President Donald Trump was back to complaining about Zelensky in the Oval Office.
If you're smart, you don't go involved and get involved in wars that... so I'm not blaming him. But what I am saying is that I wouldn't say he's done the greatest job. Okay? I'm not a big fan. I really am. I'm not a big fan.
Trump was joined by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who offered a state visit to Rome and seemed to make some progress on trade issues. She was also busy deploying her famous Trump whispering skills.
The goal for me is to make the West great again. Okay? And I think we can do it together.
We can.
Also on Ukraine, I will close. Together we've been defending the freedom of Ukraine. Together we can build a just and lasting peace. We support your efforts, Donald.
The implications of Wednesday's Supreme Court ruling on the Equality Act became clearer on Thursday. The Equality and Human Rights Commission moved to introduce new guidelines on single-sex spaces after the court ruling, which found a woman is defined by her biological sex under the Equality Act. The NHS is amongst the public bodies who are now working on updated guidance, and the chair of the commission says it's clear that the concept of single-sex spaces would need to be addressed, suggesting that trans people should advocate for new facilities. Baroness Faulkner was also clear that trans people need to be valued and considered in any changes.
It's a victory for common sense, but only if you recognise that trans people exist and their rights must be respected. It's not a victory for an increase in unpleasant actions against trans people. We will not tolerate that.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch says that laws do need to be updated, but only to prevent discrimination and not for social engineering. Health Minister Karen Smith says the government will take a considered view of the finding.
We are not interested in so-called culture wars. We believe that everybody should have their dignity and privacy and their rights respected. We're very proud of the Gender Recognition Act that we introduced. I think now is the time to make sure we look to the future.
There's been a jump in the number of asylum seekers crossing the Channel, with a new record for this year set on Tuesday when 705 people arrived on 12 boats. The number so far in 2025 is up 42% on 2024, with a provisional total of close to 9,000 migrant arrivals. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has pledged to smash the smuggling gangs, but those numbers don't help his case. Talks have begun with the French government about a reciprocal scheme, which would see some illegal migrants returned to France. Gideon Rabinowitz from the NGO Bond says one way or another, it's time for the government to move away from the hotel accommodation model for asylum seekers to a more community-based model.
Clearly, there will be some areas where it'll be very challenging to find housing. This is not a simple solution, but we think it is definitely one that is much more appropriate for the taxpayer, for refugees.
The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, says his city's taxi system is broken and he's determined to fix it. 49% of private hire drivers in the Greater Manchester area are licensed somewhere else, which makes policing and enforcement extremely difficult. He's planning to introduce a new centralised licensing system which should make it simpler for drivers to register, and he's rolling a campaign based on backing our taxis to raise awareness. He's also calling on the government to help out by introducing a new law banning out-of-area working. Steve McNamara, General Secretary at at the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association is not sure that the requested help will be given.
We absolutely need national minimum standards that are applied across the country. The Department of Transport set up a working group, made really good recommendations to government, and the government have basically said on numerous occasions since then, a bit difficult to do that.
Still to come on today's Smart 7, in association with Metro, an insane night at Old Trafford, and Ben Affleck gets a bit Matt Damon obsessed. Right after this.
Instacart is on a mission to have you not leave the couch this basketball season. Because between the pre-game rituals and the post-game interviews, it can be difficult to find time for everything else. So let Instacart take care of your game day snacks or weekly restocks and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Because we hear it's bad luck to be hungry on game day. So download the Instacart app today and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply for 3 orders in 14 days, excludes restaurants.
Welcome back.
It was a hectic night of European football on Thursday. Rangers, Chelsea, Spurs and Man United were all battling their way through the second legs of Europa League and Conference League quarter-finals. And things worked out pretty well for the UK quartet, with Rangers the only side knocked out. Chelsea lost 2-1 on the night, but still went through to the Conference League semi-final after a 4-2 win against Legia Warsaw, while Spurs won and go through to face Bodo Glimt. Man United had an insane evening at Old Trafford, needing 3 goals in extra time to finally win the tie 7-6 on aggregate. They face Athletic in the Europa League semi-final next, and manager Ruben Amorim is determined to take something positive from a tough season.
I think it's one type of moment that can change a lot of things, and sometimes we just look at the tactical aspect, the physical aspect, but these kind of moments can change a lot in the player's mind.
Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have a lot of history. They started out together, they won an Oscar together for Good Will Hunting, and they keep popping up together in Dunkin' Donut ads. But you'd think on the night of the premiere of Ben's new movie, The Accountant 2, Ben might be keen to talk about his own work and maybe projects that are coming up. That doesn't seem to be the case, though, as he waxed lyrical about a topless shot of Matt in his new movie Odyssey, much to the amusement of Entertainment Tonight.
He looks great. I think this is going to be a great movie. He just works very hard, and you can see if it requires a physique for the role, and he's got to be like this warrior, he'll go get it done. And he's spectacular. I miss him. He's having a great time.
It's definitely zombie season with The Last of Us getting rave reviews, and now the original 28 Days Later team reuniting for the third part of their trilogy. 28 years later sees Alex Garland back as writer, Danny Boyle back as director, and Cillian Murphy as executive producer, a mere 23 years after the original movie. The cast features Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Ralph Fiennes, and we pick up on the original story, well, about 28 years later, as we follow survivors who have to make a hazardous journey to the mainland. It's due to hit cinemas on June 20th.
There are many kinds of death, and some are better than others. This is a glorious day. Day of judgment. My children!
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.